Sequential Scholars is a SSHRC-funded, university-affiliated, multi-year project that creates and disseminates publicly accessible transactional scholarship on comics through social media to the widest possible audience across a diverse array of social media platforms, including X, formerly Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. The project title is a reference to cartoonist and comics theorist Scott McCloud's influential definition of comics as, quote, juxtaposed pictorial and other images in deliberate sequence, end quote, as well as legendary artist Will Eisner's definition of comics as, quote, sequential art, end quote. It also speaks to the format of the project as sequences of social media threads and multi-platform dialogues. The project's primary goal is to combine the accessibility of comics with social, digital, open source media to engage and educate the public and to create scholarly dialogues about artistic and social theories and histories, as well as the nature and value of academic analysis of art and popular culture. We also strive to capitalize on the immediacy, visuality, and interactivity of social media spaces in order to elevate and innovate the still young field of comics studies. Sequential Scholars also aims to cultivate a de-hierarchized learning environment that will benefit both researchers and the public by creating spaces where traditionally siloed groups, including scholars, readers, ACA-fans, and creators, can interact together and share knowledge. On a practical level, Sequential Scholars produces 3 to 4 weekly social media threads, sometimes called microblogs, of approximately 300 to 800 words each, meaning at least 1,200 to 3,500 words of original research content is produced each week. These threads can translate existing scholarship, perform creative analysis, or use comics to explicate pertinent social issues related to, for instance, issues of representation in popular visual culture. To capture the depth and breadth of the comics form, primary subjects of analysis are chosen from across the history of comics, a time period of 1895 to the present. All types of comics, including comic strips, comic books, graphic novels, manga, manhwa, and webcomics, are discussed, as well as all genres. For longevity and centrality, threads are archived on our website. In addition, the project creates experiential learning and mentorship opportunities for student researchers to develop digital content creating skills. The project will culminate in an academic monograph titled Subjectivity and Sequential Scholarship, which will reflect on the goals and outcomes of the project and serve as a guidebook for other academics attempting social media scholarship. Our office and lab is located at St. Jerome's University, an affiliate of the University of Waterloo, in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. Here and abroad, we read, write, record, design, and edit the many outputs and deliverables that comprise our project. So who are we? Sequential Scholarship is, at its core, a co-project designed by myself, project lead Dr. J. Andrew DeMann, and our project manager, Dr. Anna Papard, alongside a rotating series of undergraduate research assistants.
Hi there, I am Dr. Anna Papard, and I am the project manager of Sequential Scholars.
Hi, I'm Dr. J. Andrew DeMann. I am the project lead for Sequential Scholars.
So hi, I'm Mavis. I'm studying global business and visual arts. I'm in second year right now.
I became a comic scholar for the same reason that I think most folks do, which is that I just really love comics and thinking about comics and talking about comics and writing about comics.
I became a comic scholar in the early 2000s as a graduate student when I was very immersed in the literary system and finding a lot of it kind of circular and not as interesting as I wanted it to be. And comics studies at the time was kind of a burgeoning field and was something that I thought I could kind of get into and bring perspective into.
The comics also intersected with some of the research interests I began to develop as a graduate student related to body genres, embodiment feminism, and queerness and gender and sexuality. Comics, and specifically in my case superhero comics, were a really fascinating territory in which to test some of those theories and concepts.
Sequential Scholars started about 4 or 5 years ago as a project between myself and Dr. Anna Papard.
Sequential Scholars was started back in June 2022 with a small grant from St. Jerome's University. A central inspiration for the project was my colleague, Dr. Andrew DeMann's project, the Claremont Run, which was a Twitter account posting daily microblog essays in the form of threads on Twitter analyzing the X-Men comics written by Chris Claremont. I was an avid follower of the Claremont Run and from time to time would pitch Andrew on a thread idea that he would graciously allow me to write, and then I would have the tremendous privilege of having my academic analysis read by many more thousands of people than would read my more traditional academic work. Andrew pitched Sequential Scholars to me as a significant expansion of the Claremont Run, where instead of talking about X-Men comics, we would talk about all types of comics.
As a way to sort of continue building on the methodology that I created there within the context of a broader comics universe. So doing kind of Claremont-run stuff on all comics, all manga, webtoons, manhwa, you name it.
Having seen the value and impact of public scholarship through examples like the Claremont Run, I was on board right away. We were supported by various small grants over the next few years to keep the project running until in 2025 we finally secured a grant from the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada in partnership with St. Jerome's University and the University of Waterloo. This is going to allow us to keep the project going for 4 years and significantly expand it. We have a lab space, we're able to hire undergraduate assistants, and we're going to be expanding the project to more platforms in the years to come, so you're going to want to stay tuned.
My role in Sequential Scholars is I handle a lot of the administrative stuff because it's housed through my university, and I said I'm the project lead on it. So I do a lot of, paperwork of things that I kind of hate, but I still manage to find time to write about comics, which is of course what I love. And as a fan of Dr. Papard's work, it's really cool to be able to, watch her cook, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
As the project manager of Sequential Scholars, I do a little bit of everything. I collaborate with Andrew and our undergraduate assistants on planning and scheduling content. I also do some website maintenance and maintain our social media accounts, but I spend the bulk of my hours creating content for the project. So writing the threads that we post to Blue Sky and then convert into videos for posting to TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram.
So my role is an undergraduate research assistant, so I do a lot of video editing, scheduling content, and a little bit of research in it.
On social media, I think comics can do a lot of things that it can't do in traditional media.
Historically, comics are one of the most accessible media forms of all time. Their combination of short bursts of text and iconic imagery makes them compelling and affecting and involving in some really special and unique ways. Sometimes this accessibility has been viewed as a threat. In both the past and the present, comics have often been at the center of censorship battles surrounding which types of representation are considered appropriate for which types of audiences. But this also speaks to the power of comics.
I think it really is a wide audience for comics. I think when we think of comics, I think of them as sort of shallow and sort of like for entertainment, but I think there's a lot of literature and a lot of artistic value to it, and I really enjoy working with the audience.
Sequential Scholars hopes to harness the power and visibility of comics to showcase the diversity of the comics form and the diversity of comics scholarship. We also want to use the accessibility of comics to showcase the work of the humanities in general, to show what analyzing art and culture looks like and why it's important.
There's the ability to bring in visuals very directly, which is obviously limited when we talk about the places we usually talk about literary studies. So peer-reviewed journal articles and books and stuff like that. Even getting just images is very, very expensive. It's also a way to create space for people to talk to each other, to consume the media in a way that is more modern, and that takes into account all of the ways in which literacy has expanded beyond the simple reading of the text, and now involves the ways in which we engage with the text in a variety of forms.
If I could ramble endlessly on social media about one comic for the rest of my life, it would probably be my beloved Excalibur, which was a Marvel comic released between 1988 and 1998, particularly any issues drawn by the wonderful Alan Davis.
Monster. It's technically more manga, but it's just so good from beginning to end, and it's so long, but it's such a good slow burn, and it's such a unique topic.
It might be David Mazzucchelli's Asterius Polyp, which is very simple, beautiful story, haunting, really kind of existential in nature, but most importantly, Mazzucchelli is a master of the comics form. So there's so many things that he's doing in there with his layouts and his images and his image-text interactions that I think are really emblematic of something that could only exist in a comic. Yeah.
I've already rambled about this comic a great deal on a podcast I used to co-host with my colleague Dr. Andrew Demand and our friend and colleague Dr. Christopher Maverick. And yet, despite this, I can still continue to ramble endlessly. Such is the depth and power of great comics, and such is the depth and power of the love that comic scholars have for them.
On the surface, this is who we are and what we do. Scholars who post about comics on social media. Beneath the elegant simplicity of that conceit, however, is a complex ecology of comics scholarship, humanities research, and social media. Within the humanities, public scholarship has a proud but fraught history. Quote, in place of traditional forms of extension and outreach, which are dominated by a one-way transfer of knowledge from the university to stakeholders, end quote, Bridger and Alter, public scholarship offers, quote, systematic inquiry and results in publicly observable community property that is open to critique and available for others to use and develop, end quote, Kolbeck and Michael. In this, public scholarship can help enhance the public visibility of the university and encourage public involvement with its activities while striving to, quote, develop a complementary relationship between scholarly achievement and the public good, end quote, Bridger and Alter. Such interventions are badly needed. A 2022 study by Alan Liu et al., using computational models to understand patterns in how the humanities are perceived in U.S. journalism, notes, quote, a significant absence in media representation of the humanities of what we might call colloquially the actual stuff of the humanities, the materials, contents, and outputs of humanistic endeavors, end quote. Liu et al. Argue that while, quote, articles about scientific research often rivet the public's attention on actual things observed or discovered, like exoplanets, particle accelerators, or genres, with the exception of books, the humanities are exceptionally object-poor in the media, end quote. To put it simply, the humanities have an image problem, and investments in public scholarship can be instrumental in addressing this problem. The rise of digital culture and social media has accelerated both the urgency and opportunity to expand academia's engagement with public scholarship. Mark Murphy and Christina Costa, for instance, argue that, quote, web-based academic scholarship which valorizes openness and public engagement has the potential to change the shape and substance of public intellectualism, end quote. A recent report by Work et al., commissioned by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada, agrees with this assessment, asserting that because social media platforms are designed to facilitate conversations and interactions, they can, quote, help to forge new connections and strengthen existing ones within the research community, and have the potential to increase national, international, and interdisciplinary collaboration, end quote. However, the same report argues that academics have been reluctant to embrace these opportunities, in part due to a lack of support from funding agencies. Work et al. Argue, quote, if a funding agency wishes to increase the importance of social media and scholarly communication, it should recognize new forms of communication and actively encourage use of social media by supporting beneficial use, end quote. The field of comic studies has similar but different image problems. Comic studies has experienced substantial growth in the past decade. As of 2022, there are 3 comic studies journals in North America and 2 professional associations, the Canadian Society for the Study of Comics and the US-based Comic Studies Society. Yet there are no departments of comic studies in Canada and only a few in the United States. When comics are taught in North American universities, it is generally within literature departments, wherein the form's unique visuality is often neglected. As Bart Beatty observes, quote, scholarly study of comics, as it has developed in universities over the past quarter century, has tended to focus on those comics that best fit the literary scholarly traditions, end quote. In addition, while there is much excellent scholarship foregrounding comics as a visual medium, see especially Cohn, Davies, Groenstein, Collier, Postema, and Stepp, and as a hybrid, such as Carrier, or multimodal form, see Jacobs, in which images and text work together to produce meaning, costs associated with reproducing comics images in print publications present barriers to visually oriented scholarship within traditional academic publishing. Simply put, traditional academic venues are often ill-suited to capturing the full depth and complexity of the comics form. Because comics are neither art nor literature, and/or both art and literature, they do not fit comfortably within the traditional boundaries. This is why comics need their own field of study, and why they both require and inspire innovative approaches to scholarly analysis, such as, well, us, Sequential Scholars. Here we like to use the image problem of comic studies to address the broader image problem of the humanities. The project tackles this by creating and translating comic studies research for distribution as social media threads, which are sometimes called microblogs, videos and podcasts on social media platforms, and other open access digital outlets. By presenting research as social media threads, Instagram stories, TikTok videos, YouTube video essays, and podcasts, Sequential Scholars seeks to emphasize the visuality of comics, to make the stuff of comics scholarship and processes of comics scholarship available to the public, and to create symmetrical communities where diverse scholars can interact with each other and the public, promoting large-scale, non-hierarchical knowledge sharing. Participating in public discourse through scholarship has always been essential to scholars' contribution to civic life. And as Amy L. Chapman and Christine Greenhow argue, quote, social media may assist scholars in these practices, enabling them to share work, interact with a broad audience, and become citizen scholars, generating research with a commitment to the improvement of society. End quote. Sequential Scholars capitalizes on modern technology and the rise of digital communities to innovate within this tradition. In order to maximize visibility and maintain flexibility within the rapidly changing social media landscape, the project's weekly outputs are cross-posted to X, formerly Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and are archived on the website sequentialscholars.com. Should new social media platforms gain popularity during the lifetime of the project, we have the mobility to adapt our content to serve those networks. As mentioned, each week the project lead, Dr. J. Andrew Demand, and the project manager, Dr. Anna Papard, produce 3 to 4 unique threads of 8 to 14 posts each. Each post includes text and a supportive image. Each thread is approximately 300 to 800 words, meaning at least 1,200 to 3,500 words of original research and analysis are produced each week. Organized around thematic clusters, threads will translate existing scholarship, perform creative analysis, and use comics to explicate pertinent social issues related to, for instance, representation in popular visual culture, both historically and within contemporary culture. The tone of the threads is both scholarly and accessible, capable of communicating effectively with multiple scholarly and non-scholarly stakeholders without sacrificing academic rigor. The first objective of Sequential Scholars is to educate the public about the form and history of comics, and through the interactivity and immediacy of social media, allow and encourage the public to participate in scholarly discourse. A second objective is to use the accessibility and interactivity of social media to elevate the profile of comic studies within academia. Because comic studies departments are rare, the relevance of the history and form of comics to other fields of study often goes underrepresented. For instance, to date, no scholarly books focusing on histories of censorship in the American film industry substantially address the similar yet important different trajectory of comics censorship. Moreover, as influential comics scholar Hilary Shute discusses in her book, Why Comics? Underground to Everywhere, while people who study comics regularly discuss the form's unique representations of gender, sexuality, race, violence, illness, and disability, the value of these representations remains underappreciated outside of comic studies. By offering a public showcase for what comics are and what they do, and what comic studies is and what it can do, Sequential Scholars can increase the profile of our field and help people who love and appreciate comics understand and express that affinity. A third coextensive objective of Sequential Scholars is to create spaces for knowledge sharing among scholars from diverse fields, as well as between different stakeholders within the world of comics, including comics fans, critics, and creators. The work of comic studies is not confined to academic books and journals focused on comics. Neither is it confined to literature departments, despite the dominance of those departments within the field. By spotlighting comic scholarship that emerges from and intersects with many different fields, including but not limited to literature, film, art history, sociology, cultural studies, gender studies, sexuality studies, critical race studies, media studies, and disability studies, Sequential Scholars can encourage diverse scholars to follow and interact with its threads, stories, and videos in order to create an intersectional perspective on comics and comic studies. A fourth related objective is to create opportunities for student researchers to learn valuable and transferable digital communication skills that will only become more relevant to both academic careers and to a wide variety of non-academic careers in the years to come. Student researchers will also learn valuable technical skills, such as audio and video editing, which are similarly applicable to the future of academic work and adaptable to careers outside of academia. More immediately, it is a rare thing for a scholar to be able to earn money toward their education whilst studying comics and social media hands-on. The hope here is to help the next generation of scholars in these fields find their voices. A fifth overarching objective is to create a model for comic scholars and scholars from other fields to develop their own strategies for sharing research findings in social media forums, and to advocate for the importance of doing so. The Sequential Scholars methodology for this, which I cultivated on my previous project, the Claremont Run, has now been the subject of 3 conference presentations, including the prestigious Flair Symposium at the University of Texas, a Tidy Tuesday event on X, a data visualization event in the data scientist community, and an article by Dan Cassino in the Pages of Contemporary Sociology. In short, we've been cultivating a method. Finally, the project will inform a scholarly manuscript co-written by the project lead and project manager, reflecting on the project's goals and outcomes in the context of theories of interpreting comics and the insights that public scholarship conducted on social media can contribute to those discourses. In pursuing traditionally scholarly activities and publishing venues alongside public scholarship, I concur with work et al. That, quote, acknowledging new forms of outputs and impacts does not replace traditional forms of scholarly communication, end quote. While advocating for new ways of creating and disseminating scholarly analysis and community, Sequential Scholars also aims to enhance and promote work being done in peer-reviewed journals and monographs, as such work remains vital to standards of academic rigor. Shining a spotlight on great comic scholarship in traditional media is a big part of what we do. With the assistance of 2 seed grants from the St. Jerome's University, Sequential Scholars has built a strong foundation for future growth. We have been posting weekly original research content since June of 2022, and we've amassed over 9,000 followers on social media, while learning valuable lessons about online engagement that have informed our current practice. So what's next? Our project, without the aid of any dinosaur theme parks, is funded through 2029. During that time, the project will continue to expand in its resources, offerings, and deliverables. If you like what we do, you can look forward to more threads, more videos, more conference papers, more workshops, a podcast, and eventually even a book. In short, we are working really hard to push our field, kicking and screaming if need be, into a public-facing social media environment. If you'd like to support us, please keep reading, listening, watching, and sharing. Thank you for listening here, and we'll see you in all the many places that Sequential Scholars seeks for comic scholarship to be seen.